Imagine being 9 years old, standing on a cold wooden porch, clutching a worn-out suitcase. Watching your parents drive away without looking back. You don't know why. You don't know where they're going. But you know one thing, they're not coming back. Fast forward 20 years. Those same parents came crawling to me, begging for a piece of my $300 million empire. And what I did next? Oh, you're going to love this. If you've ever dreamed of serving cold, sweet justice to the people who wronged you, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned. This is the story of how I turned my pain into power, built an empire from scratch, and gave my parents a taste of karma they'll never forget. The story begins in 1999, a cloudy afternoon in rural Oregon. 9-year-old Anthony sat in the back of an old, rattling car, clutching his small, worn suitcase, the only thing he owned. His parents barely spoke during the drive. No explanations. No reassurances. And then, the car stopped in front of a small, weathered wooden house, surrounded by endless fields of red earth and dry grass. His mother turned, avoiding eye contact, and muttered, "Anthony, you'll be staying with your grandfather for a while." Before Anthony could ask why, his father shoved his suitcase into his hands, muttered a quick goodbye, and within seconds, the car disappeared down the dusty road. Anthony stood frozen on the porch, staring at the horizon, waiting for the car to turn back. It never did. Inside the house, his grandfather Henry, a tall, quiet man in his late 60s, greeted him with a warm but reserved nod. The air smelled of sawdust, oil, and old books. Anthony's first night there was the hardest. The silence. The creaking floorboards. The aching, unanswered question. Why didn't they want me? Adapting to a new life, 3 to 5 o'clock. Life with Henry was simple, almost painfully quiet. There was no chaos, no TV blaring, no city sounds, just chores, silent meals, and long stretches of loneliness. Anthony became a shadow. He rarely spoke. He rarely smiled. He avoided the kids at school, burying himself in books and sketching random machines in his notebooks. But Henry was patient. He didn't push. He didn't demand. He simply let Anthony exist, until one day he didn't. One summer afternoon, Henry led Anthony to an old shed behind the house. Inside, piles of dusty tools, rusty gears, and broken farm equipment covered the walls. Henry handed Anthony a screwdriver and pointed to a battered old harvesting machine. "It's broken," Henry said calmly. "Fix it with me." At first, Anthony panicked. He had no idea what he was doing. But Henry patiently guided him, showing him how to connect wires, replace bolts, and test circuits. The first attempt, failure. Second attempt, another failure. By the third try, Anthony's tiny hands trembled as he turned the key, and the machine roared to life. That moment changed everything. For the first time since his parents abandoned him, Anthony felt pride. He felt capable. And more importantly, he felt seen. From that day forward, the shed became Anthony's sanctuary. Henry taught him the basics of electronics, soldering, programming circuits, and fixing anything with moving parts. Between the sound of clicking tools and buzzing wires, Henry started sharing stories about his past, his work as an engineer, his struggles, and his passion for building things that mattered. Those afternoons weren't just lessons in engineering. They were lessons in life. Patience matters more than talent. Effort beats luck. And no matter how broken something seems, it can always be rebuilt. By the time Anthony was 12, Henry encouraged him to join the local robotics club. He was terrified, the youngest kid there, surrounded by teenagers who seemed smarter, louder, and more confident. But Henry's advice echoed in his mind. You don't need to be the smartest, Anthony. You just need to be the one who doesn't give up. Months later, Anthony designed his first small robot, a basic prototype that could collect trash using a tiny mechanical arm. At 14, he entered a statewide robotics competition with that creation. The night before, he couldn't sleep. His stomach churned with anxiety, fearing failure, fearing humiliation. Henry sat beside him and whispered, "The result doesn't matter, son. What matters is you tried. And you didn't quit." The next day, against all odds, Anthony won first place. For the first time in his life, a crowd cheered his name. And when he glanced at Henry in the audience, his grandfather's proud smile said everything. On Anthony's 18th birthday, Henry handed him a small velvet box. Inside was a beautifully crafted silver ring, engraved with a single word. Legacy. This, Henry said softly, is a reminder. Your purpose isn't money or fame. It's the mark you leave on this world. That night, Anthony learned the dark truth behind his abandonment. Henry revealed that Anthony's parents had tried to forge documents to seize his fortune years ago. When Henry refused to give them a cent, they left, choosing greed over family. Anthony sat there, silent, numb. Every childhood memory of his parents shattered in an instant. But Henry's final words became Anthony's new compass. You are not them. You are better than them. Build something they could never touch. Just when life seemed to have meaning again, tragedy struck. One crisp autumn morning, Anthony found Henry collapsed on the kitchen floor. A massive stroke. By the time the ambulance arrived, it was too late. Anthony's entire world crumbled. The house, the shed, the laughter-filled evenings, all suddenly empty. But his heartbreak was far from over. Because at Henry's funeral, Anthony turned around and saw them. His parents. And they weren't there to mourn. They were there for his inheritance. I thought my battles were over when I won the case against my parents, but I was wrong. I was about to enter the fight of my life. Not against family this time, but against an industry determined to crush me. After Henry's death, Anthony dove headfirst into building Henry's hope. But as his foundation gained traction, whispers began circulating in the tech world. Whispers started by his estranged parents. They told anyone who would listen that Anthony stole Henry's wealth and was using dirty money to manipulate the orphanage initiative. Investors grew cautious. Journalists began circling like vultures. Every time Anthony stepped into a boardroom, he could feel the skeptical stares. Inside, he burned with rage, but on the outside, he stayed calm. I won't let them take away Henry's dream, he reminded himself, gripping the silver ring on his finger like a lifeline. Anthony, let's be honest, one shareholder said, leaning forward, his Rolex gleaming under the lights. You're 19. You inherited wealth, but you don't have the experience to lead this project. Maybe it's better if we replace you. The words hit like knives, but Anthony didn't flinch. If I give up now, I'm giving them exactly what they want, he thought, grinding his teeth silently. That night, Anthony sat alone in his small office above the farm. The faint hum of cicadas outside, the soft ticking of Henry's old clock, and his silent tears created a symphony of determination. They don't believe in me. Fine. I'll build something so powerful, so undeniable, they'll regret ever doubting me. Anthony poured everything into Henry's hope. But he realized something bigger. He could merge his love for robotics and software engineering into something revolutionary. He spent months tinkering in Henry's old shed, surrounded by discarded wires, spare circuits, and coffee-stained notebooks. Slowly, an idea came alive. A platform where AI-driven robotics could automate low-cost prosthetics for orphaned children. Affordable, scalable, transformative. He called it Project Haven. By age 23, Anthony pitched Haven to a skeptical panel of Silicon Valley investors. This isn't just tech, he said, holding up a tiny 3D printed robotic hand. This is hope you can hold in your hand. The room fell silent. Then slowly one investor clapped. Then another. And another. Within 6 months, Anthony raised $18 million in funding. Revenge served cold. Remember those shareholders who wanted to replace him? They begged to buy in, and Anthony rejected every single one. You told me I wasn't ready, he said calmly over a Zoom call, his face expressionless. Now you're not ready to be part of my future. Click. Call ended. Viewers admit it. That felt good, didn't it? But Anthony's estranged parents weren't done. By now, Anthony was 25, Haven had grown into a $150 million company, and Henry's Hope had funded scholarships for over 1,000 orphaned kids. That's when they struck again. This time, filing a federal lawsuit claiming Henry's original will was forged. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about destroying his reputation. For weeks, Anthony barely slept, juggling late-night calls with lawyers while overseeing Haven's launch. Anxiety clawed at him like wildfire, but he clung to Henry's teachings. When the storm hits, son, don't panic. Build your shelter. The courtroom showdown. The day of the hearing, Anthony wore Henry's old silver ring. His parents walked in looking smug, confident, and ready to bury him. Their attorney stood and thundered. Ladies and gentlemen, my clients were betrayed by their own son. But Anthony's lawyer interrupted, sliding a small, velvet box onto the table. Inside lay the original ring authentication papers, encrypted with Henry's signature and a timestamp only Henry could have generated. Gasps filled the room. The judge examined the documents and turned to Anthony's parents. Case dismissed. They stormed out without looking back. Anthony didn't chase them. He didn't need to. Revenge wasn't shouting. Revenge wasn't screaming. Revenge was winning. By 30, Anthony was a tech millionaire worth $300 million. But he wasn't chasing yachts or penthouses. Instead, he doubled down on Henry's hope. The foundation expanded globally, teaching orphaned kids robotics, coding, and AI-driven problem-solving. Anthony mentored hundreds personally, reminding them every day, you are not defined by where you start, but by the future you build. Climactic emotional moment. One evening, at the Henry's Hope annual gala, a young woman approached Anthony, tears in her eyes. Do you remember me? She whispered. Anthony shook his head gently. You built me a prosthetic arm. When I was 10, she said, lifting her robotic hand proudly. Today, I'm the lead engineer at Haven. Anthony froze. His chest tightened and his vision blurred. This was Henry's dream, alive, breathing, thriving. Final reflection. I thought wealth was about numbers in a bank account, Anthony says, narrating over cinematic footage of him standing on Henry's old farm at sunset. But real wealth is the lives we change, the dreams we ignite, and the legacies we leave behind. He touches the silver ring on his hand. Henry gave me more than a home. He gave me purpose. And now I carry his name by giving others hope. If Anthony's journey gave you chills, smash that like button and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. And tell us in the comments, what's the greatest revenge you've ever witnessed?